Hi, everyone. My name is Wendy Roldan, and I am a PhD candidate at the University of Washington in the Department of Human-Centered Design and Engineering. And I am very excited to share with you all today our DIS 2021 paper, Pedagogical Strategies for Reflection in Project-Based HCI Education with End Users. And this is work that was done with an awesome team of co-authors listed here, and we are all at the University of Washington. So let's get started. The motivation for this work is that as the field of HCI and interaction design matures, there have been increased efforts to actively reflect on, but also investigate and propose new pedagogical approaches for HCI. Prior work in the past couple of years recommends HCI curriculum that responds to the dynamics of socio-behavioral context, curriculum that supports a multidisciplinary science, and curriculum that bridges design philosophies and practice. Similarly, we've seen the increase of communities such as the HCI Education Community of Practice and the group of people thinking through the future of design education. And prior work has been incredibly valuable for informing best practices for HCI education. But we found that in our review of the existing literature, few scholarship exist where they study the practice of implementing research recommendations into the classroom. And this might be because HCI education research is still in its infancy. The HCM curricula for HCI interaction was published in 1992, and there's been a lot of work since then. And here we want to acknowledge that there are a number of professors and HCI educators taking the translation from HCI research recommendations to their classroom, but we didn't find scholarship about the process of implementing. And we argue that the translation of research to HCI classroom practice presents an opportunity to not only understand student experience, but to really understand deeply how students respond to research recommendations that we implement in our classroom practices. It also presents an opportunity to support educators in making informed pedagogical choices. And it presents an opportunity to explore how best practices for HCI education can be adapted based on context. Who is in the HCI classroom? Who is teaching the HCI curriculum, and in what context is this HCI classroom existing in? So over the past 3 years, our work has undergone an active process of reframing how do we support design students in engagements with end users during participatory design sessions. In our first year of this work, we wrote about in CHI 2020, where we presented how we incorporated users into the classroom and how students responded to having users as part of their HCI curriculum. In the second year, we have this paper where I'll present the findings of this paper today, where we show how we supported students in their engagements and how we incorporated and scaffolded specific activities for reflection. And we just wrapped up the third year of doing this work, where we continued partnering with master's students and children to design new technologies, all on Zoom. So in this particular paper today, I'm going to present a research through design investigation of a studio-based HCI course, which was revised based on HCI education recommendations in the literature. And we specifically draw on Singers et al. 2005, Roldan et al. 2020, and Cook et al. 2020, who all propose how and the importance of incorporating reflection into HCI. We argue that this is a research to design process because it's a process in which we as design educators and design researchers are trying to generate new knowledge that transforms the world from the current state to the preferred state of HCI education. In our work, we saw the opportunity for more evidence-based practices in HCI, specifically those around reflection. So we implemented 5 key course revisions in our HCI course. So to give you more context on the course, it is a 10-week course. It had 42 graduate level HCI students, and the students were grouped into teams to design a socially relevant multiplayer video game for children with a custom tangible input controller made from Arduino. To inform and test their prototypes, students engaged in 2 participatory design sessions with children. And user studies are difficult to teach without experiential learning. So we helped students develop the skills necessary to plan, execute, and learn from those sessions. We scaffolded their study preparation, we provided and discussed curated video examples, and we added reflection activities and prompts throughout the course. And in our paper, we detail explicitly the specific changes we made based on our learnings from year one and based on the existing literature on reflection for HCI. And we also detail our rationale for incorporating those course components. I invite you to read our paper for more detail. And I'll show you here what it looks like. It looked like children and master students being in a room together, playing with different activities, playing with different games, giving input, responding, and there were a lot of things happening in that session. And this is a screenshot from a video recording. So through this work, we asked 3 research questions. The first question was around the educational experience of the students in response to our course revision. The second research question was what strategies supported or hindered students' reflective practice. And the third research question dove deep into the insights that potentially students gained by engaging in these reflective practices as part of their HCI education. To answer these research questions, we drew on 4 sources of rich data where we brought together the responses from the reflection surveys that students filled out. We had video recordings of all 8 student-led PD sessions with children. We analyzed 4 artifacts from final project documentation, and after the course ended, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 20 out of the 42 enrolled students. And to analyze our data, we followed qualitative research approaches aligned with interpretivist lines of inquiry, where we saw knowledge as iteratively co-constructed between researchers and participants. Because of all of our rich sources of data, we used Miro to start to notice themes and patterns after open coding all of the data. Throughout the process, we kept analytical memos of what we were noticing. We developed a total of 122 subcodes and 10 high-level codes. And after developing these high-level codes, we came together to present the 3 findings we show in our paper. So in our paper, we show a lot more detail of our findings. But to give you an overview, in the paper, we show how students responded to the course revisions. We show which characteristics supported or hindered students' reflective practice in our classroom, and we show the insights that students gained from being engaged in their reflective practice. I don't have time to go in depth into every one of the student responses to our course revisions, but I'll highlight here that the MidQuarter video clip showed students how to be flexible with the plan and respond quickly to different conditions. We saw that students noticing and watching themselves on those video clips helped them see and navigate for the second session how they were going to respond to this unpredictable user group. In our second finding section, we present that 3 things that supported students' reflective practice were the multifaceted nature of our prompts. We had within team reflections and we had cross team reflections. We had individual reflections and we had written reflections. We had oral debriefs. So that was an important piece that we saw a lot of students resonated with. I'll call out here that one pedagogical characteristic that we saw that hindered students' reflective practice was the uncomfortableness of watching oneself. This student said, even though it was cringy being watched, then we realized some things we were trying to pay attention in the second session because of this midpoint check-in where they were reviewing video from their previous session. The third finding in our paper shows how students gained insights about nuanced moments in their engagements with users. In terms of implications for pedagogy and design, we ask what's at risk if we don't train reflexive human beings throughout our classroom practices. We propose that noticing can prompt critical reflection about design situations that may seem ephemeral in the moment, but are really important to attend to with respect to ethical considerations, equity, diversity, and inclusion. We propose that educators can take the time to encourage noticing in the classroom through scaffolded activities, such as the ones that we present in our paper. We propose that the concept of noticing is not just about noticing flaws or challenges, but opportunities where we can improve our interactions through design processes. In our paper, we propose many ways for educators to scaffold noticing in their classroom, for students to lead their own noticing, and we present an opportunity for innovative tools and techniques to scale video-based reflection. Our contributions are threefold. We present evidence-based pedagogy research in HCI education. We propose the notion of noticing, and we argue that we can support designers through these specific ways in our HCI practice to observe their details from user sessions, such as input and dynamically adapting during their sessions. I want to thank all of our collaborators and our funding sources in our work. And I'll leave you with this slide. Thanks.